What if I told you that within your very body lies a force so immense, so uncontainable, that entire empires of religion, politics, and society once conspired to bury it beneath layers of fear and shame? A force so radiant that to awaken it is to confront your own divinity face to face. It has been called many names across time: the serpent fire, the vital current, the sacred flame. Yet behind them all is one of the greatest secrets of human existence: the power of sexual alchemy. Imagine for a moment that every desire you've ever felt, the hunger for love, the pursuit of wealth, the ache for fulfillment, the thirst for meaning, could be traced back to this same inner fire. It is not simply about lust or pleasure, but about the raw substance of creation itself. Ancient initiates knew it. They preserved its mysteries in the temples of Egypt, whispered it in tantric rituals in India, and symbolized it in the intertwined serpents of Hermes' staff. Across cultures and centuries, a golden thread has woven masters and seekers together in this forbidden knowledge: that the body is not merely flesh and bone, but a temple where heaven and earth unite, where the human being becomes a bridge between the mortal and the divine. And yet, why has this knowledge been so deeply hidden, even demonized? Why did societies that once celebrated the erotic as sacred suddenly turn it into sin, guilt, and secrecy? Because to know how to govern one's own fire is to be free. Free from external authority, free from manipulation, free from the chains of those who profit from keeping humanity disconnected from its true source of power. When you channel your energy, when you reclaim what has always been yours, you no longer need intermediaries. You become priest, temple, and God all at once. That is the liberation that terrified the rulers of the past, and it is the same liberation that whispers to you now. Throughout history, fire has always symbolized this hidden power. Think of Prometheus, stealing fire from the gods to gift it to humanity, condemned to eternal torment for daring to cross that sacred boundary. But the fire he stole was never just literal flame. It was creative power itself, the spark of transformation, the courage to shape reality. Humanity has always sensed that within the flames of desire lives both our greatest danger and our greatest promise. It can enslave or it can set free. It can consume in fleeting pleasure or open portals to divine ecstasy. The ancients did not separate the erotic from the spiritual. For them, the sexual act was not just the union of two bodies, but the reenactment of cosmic union. Sun and moon, earth and sky, masculine and feminine dissolving into oneness. This is why the temples of Isis honored the body as sacred, why Dionysian rites celebrated ecstatic union, why tantric masters spoke of sublimation and transcendence. They understood a truth we have forgotten. Sexuality is not merely biology. It is alchemy. It is the transmutation of raw life force into higher states of being. But then came the distortion. Pleasure was twisted into guilt, desire into sin, the body into a prison. The fire meant to rise up the spine as light was forced downward, wasted, turned into smoke. Institutions realized that to control the masses, they had to cut humanity off from its inner flame. They succeeded, at least for a time. Look around at the paradox of our modern world. We are bombarded by sexual images at every corner, yet most people feel emptier and more disconnected than ever. We drown in stimulation while starving for meaning. The sacred fire has been degraded into spectacle, addiction, distraction. And yet, even buried beneath centuries of suppression, the spark has never died. It waits in silence within you, longing to be awakened. To reclaim this spark is to enter forbidden territory. Forbidden not because it is dangerous, but because it is liberating. Sexual alchemy is not about repression, nor is it about indulgence. It is about transmutation. the art of taking what is base and dense and refining it into light without destroying its essence. Think of it like the alchemist's great work, turning lead into gold. The lead is not discarded, it is transformed. In the same way, your desire is not an enemy to be fought, but raw power to be channeled into creativity, vision, and higher states of consciousness. When this energy rises, it awakens parts of you long forgotten. Instinct becomes intuition, lust becomes love, pleasure becomes power. The very same current that once threatened to enslave you becomes the force that liberates you. This is the secret of resurrection the Egyptians hinted at, not the revival of dead flesh, but the reanimation of dormant spirit. The awakening of the serpent that sleeps coiled at the base of the spine, waiting for the courage of the seeker to rise. And here is the key. Fire in its raw state is wild. Without awareness, it destroys. But with awareness, it illuminates. Ancient rituals and symbols existed not to repress sexuality, but to guide it, to protect it, to remind us that energy without consciousness can burn the temple down. But energy guided by spirit can turn the human being into a living sun. And that is what sexual alchemy truly is, the recovery of your inner fire, the sacred marriage of opposites within, the recognition that you are not broken, not sinful, not separate, but radiant, complete, divine. The world outside may keep you distracted, addicted, ashamed. But the truth remains. Your fire was never lost. It was only waiting. The question is, are you ready to claim it? Once you recognize that the fire within you is not an enemy but an ally, the journey truly begins. But here lies the challenge. Possessing the fire is not enough. You must learn to guide it. Imagine holding a lightning bolt in your hands, raw, untamed, overwhelming. Without direction, it destroys everything in its path. But when harnessed, when channeled through intention and discipline, that same lightning illuminates the darkness and powers entire worlds. The alchemists of old called this process transmutation. And though the word sounds mystical, its essence is simple. Take what is base and elevate it without losing its power. To transmute sexual energy is not to suppress or deny it. Suppression leads only to shadow, to frustration, to inner war. Instead, it is about refinement. Just as water, when boiled, transforms into vapor and rises, so too can raw desire be elevated into subtle frequencies of creativity, magnetism, and spiritual clarity. Think of desire as a vast river. Left unchecked, it floods recklessly, drowning fields and homes. But build a dam, guide the current through turbines, and that same river generates light for millions. The river has not changed in essence. It is still water, still flow. But through consciousness, it has been given purpose. This is the work of the sexual alchemist. To channel, not to waste. To transform, not to fight. Modern science is only beginning to glimpse what the ancients knew. The body is not just flesh, but an intricate network of currents, channels, and centers of energy. Eastern traditions mapped them as chakras. Taoist masters traced them through meridians, and mystics described them as ladders between heaven and earth. At the root, at the base of the spine, sleeps the serpent, Kundalini, the coiled fire. Left dormant, it remains untapped potential. Awakened, it begins to rise, touching each center, purifying, transfiguring. Every stage of its ascent is a transformation. Instinct becomes vision, hunger becomes creativity, passion becomes wisdom. But this path is not for the impatient. It demands awareness, discipline, and a purity of intention. For energy does not discriminate. It amplifies whatever it touches. If the heart is filled with greed or fear, the rising fire intensifies those shadows. If the heart is aligned with love and clarity, the fire becomes luminous, expansive, magnetic. This is why ancient masters warned that the great work is not just a technique, but a transformation of the soul itself. And what happens when you succeed? The fire, once scattered in unconscious impulses, becomes a source of inexhaustible vitality. You no longer leak your energy into moments of forgetfulness. Instead, you radiate it. It surrounds you like an aura, invisible to the eyes, yet palpable to anyone who comes near. People feel it in your presence, an inexplicable magnetism, a charisma that does not come from appearance, status, or words, but from the vibration of your very being. Manly P. Hall once wrote that the aura of the initiate becomes luminous, radiant, drawing others as if by a silent gravity. And isn't it true that we have all at some moment felt this around certain people? That sense of being pulled, not by force, but by presence? This is the mark of someone who has begun to master their inner fire. They no longer chase, beg, or manipulate. They attract, not because they grasp outwardly, but because they overflow inwardly. Mystics have long spoken of this state as becoming a living sun. A body that once consumed energy now radiates it, shining frequencies that ripple outward, shaping not only relationships but events, opportunities, and circumstances. Taoist sages called this magnetic virtue the natural power of attraction that arises when one aligns with the deeper order of existence. Hermeticists described it as the astral light, an invisible field where all thought and intention circulate, waiting to crystallize into form. When sexual energy is transmuted and deposited into this field, it bends probabilities. Reality itself begins to reorganize around the vibration you carry. And yet here is the paradox. The more one desperately chases desire in the outer world, the further it seems to slip away. But the more one cultivates fullness within, the more reality rushes in to meet it. True attraction is not an effort. It is a state of being. Carl Jung hinted at this when he spoke of Eros not merely as instinct, but as the psychic force that unites and weaves the fabric of existence. It is not about pulling the world toward you, but about becoming so radiant that the world cannot help but mirror back your essence. But do not mistake this for manipulation. This is not about bending others to your will or treating energy as a tool for egoic gain. The fire is too pure, too immense for that. Without intention rooted in the heart, it backfires, amplifying shadow rather than light. That is why the greatest masters insisted, purify the heart before you intensify the flame. For the greater the fire, the more it reveals. It either illuminates or consumes depending on what it touches. The practice then is not only technical but deeply personal. It is not just about breathwork, retention, or meditation, though those are part of the path. It is about becoming conscious in every act, every choice, every pulse of energy. To make love not as a mechanical discharge, but as a sacred union. To experience pleasure not as escape, but as presence. To hold awareness even at the peak of intensity so that energy is not lost in forgetfulness, but elevated into clarity. This is the art of the conscious orgasm. Not the draining release that leaves one empty, but the integration that leaves one whole. Energy does not vanish. It is recirculated, nourished, refined. The body becomes an instrument, the soul becomes conductor, and every note of desire becomes part of a symphony of transformation. This is sexual alchemy at its essence. Not denial, not indulgence, but conscious transmutation. And as this energy refines itself, it begins to ripple outward into every area of life. Creativity blossoms, courage awakens, vision sharpens. The same current that once leaked unconsciously into lust or distraction now fuels inventions, art, insight, and synchronicity. The world begins to respond to you differently, not because you force it to, but because you have become different. Reality is a mirror. And when you polish your inner vibration, the reflection changes. When this inner fire begins to radiate outward, something extraordinary happens. Life itself starts to reorganize around you. It is not that you suddenly gain control over the universe. It is that the universe responds to the signal you are transmitting. Just as a tuning fork makes other objects vibrate in resonance, your field of energy begins to call forth people, opportunities, and circumstances that match your frequency. This is why those who master their vital force are often described as magnetic, irresistible, even radiant. It is not an act of charm or manipulation. It is simply the law of resonance in motion. And yet this magnetism is not limited to attracting relationships or admiration. That is only the most superficial layer. The true miracle is that the same current that animates the body becomes the very substance of creativity, abundance, and vision. Nikola Tesla, one of the most brilliant minds in human history, openly acknowledged that his ability to invent, to dream, to connect with the field of ideas came from the sublimation of his sexual energy. He did not waste it recklessly. He refined it, redirected it, transformed it into focus, into genius, into innovation. Desire, when harnessed, becomes creation. But here is the subtle truth. This power is not dependent on celibacy or abstinence. It is not about denial. What matters is consciousness. A person may live a vibrant sexual life and still transmute their energy if they remain aware, intentional, present. What destroys vitality is not the act itself, but unconsciousness. It is when passion becomes an escape, when pleasure is sought without presence, when the body acts like a machine rather than a temple. The real loss is not the energy itself, but the forgetting of self, the dissipation of intention. Picture two lovers who come together with deep awareness, each breath infused with reverence, each touch alive with intention. In that moment, energy is not wasted. It circulates, it rises, it expands. The orgasm does not scatter them into emptiness, but anchors them more deeply into fullness. The act becomes not just physical pleasure, but an initiation into the sacred, a portal into union not only with each other, but with the cosmos itself. This is the true meaning of lovemaking as alchemy. It is not indulgence nor repression, but transfiguration. And so the body itself becomes a living laboratory, a furnace of transformation. Every chakra touched by the rising current becomes a stage of evolution. At the root, survival is transmuted into vitality. At the sacral, passion is transmuted into creativity. At the solar plexus, desire is transmuted into will. At the heart, longing is transmuted into love. At the throat, expression becomes truth. At the brow, perception becomes vision. And at the crown, all duality dissolves into union with the infinite. This is the path of the serpent fire, winding upward, purifying, refining, until the human being is no longer merely human, but divine embodied. But make no mistake, this is not an overnight process. It demands patience, discipline, and a willingness to confront your own shadows. Because as the fire rises, it brings everything with it, both light and darkness. If jealousy, greed, or fear are hidden within, they will surface with intensity. If love, clarity, and courage are cultivated, they too will blaze brighter. The fire amplifies whatever it touches. That is why the ancients spoke of the secret fire, a flame that must be guarded, guided, and tended with care. For when it is mastered, the rewards are beyond comprehension. The fire becomes inexhaustible. You no longer burn yourself out chasing external gratification because the source of vitality is within. You no longer beg for love, approval, or validation because you have become a fountain overflowing with presence. You no longer need to manipulate reality because reality bends toward you as naturally as flowers bend toward the sun. This inner magnetism is not fantasy. It has been observed, described, and even studied. Research at the HeartMath Institute has shown that the human heart produces an electromagnetic field thousands of times more powerful than the brain. And when a person's vital energy is consciously elevated, this field expands, influencing not only the body itself but those nearby. Science calls it bioelectromagnetism. Mystics call it aura. But whatever the name, it is real and it is transformative. Imagine yourself as a sun. Your energy radiates in waves, invisible yet undeniable. People feel calmer, more inspired, more alive simply by being near you. Opportunities align without effort, synchronicities multiply, life flows with a grace that seems almost supernatural. But it is not supernatural, it is natural. The most natural thing in the world. You are simply living as you were always meant to, as a being of light in a body of earth, as a channel of heaven expressing itself through form. And here lies the greatest paradox of all. The more you try to grasp this power for selfish gain, the more it slips away. The more you surrender to it as a path of becoming, the more it overflows. Sexual alchemy was never meant to be a trick for manifesting desires like toys from a vending machine. It is not about getting what you want. It is about becoming what you truly are. And when you become, the world reflects that being back to you in ways more abundant and miraculous than you could have planned. To walk this path is to accept that everything you seek is already within, waiting for refinement. You don't attract what you beg for. You attract what you embody. And the process of embodying, of refining, of radiating is the very work of sexual alchemy. So ask yourself, are you willing to stop running from your desire and finally face it, transmute it, let it burn away what no longer serves you, and let it forge you into something greater? Because if you are, then you will find that what you once thought of as forbidden, shameful, or dangerous is in fact your greatest treasure, not a curse, not a sin, but the key to your liberation. When you arrive at this understanding, something fundamental shifts within you. Desire is no longer a chain that drags you downward, nor a flame that consumes you. It becomes the very chisel that sculpts your soul, the fire that forges your destiny. Sexual alchemy is not about running from passion nor drowning in it. It is about transforming it into a ladder toward the divine. But here is the hidden truth that few dare to acknowledge. The energy that fuels creation is also the energy that fuels destruction. It is neutral, ambivalent, a raw force that magnifies everything it touches. That is why it has been feared and hidden for so long. Those who cannot govern themselves cannot govern this fire. It is like handing a torch to someone lost in a forest of dry leaves. Without awareness, everything burns. With awareness, everything is illuminated, and so the responsibility of the seeker is immense. To walk this path is to carry a sacred flame. It demands honesty, discipline, and above all, purity of heart. For the universe listens, but it does not discriminate. If your intentions are clouded by greed, anger, or pride, the fire will amplify them. If your intentions are grounded in love, clarity, and service, the fire will magnify those instead. This is why the alchemists always insisted, first purify the vessel, then intensify the flame. And what does it mean to purify? It means to face yourself, to bring awareness to the hidden corners of your being where shame, fear, and guilt have long been buried. It means to stop running from your shadows and instead bring them into the light of consciousness, allowing the fire to transform them. For the more you hide from yourself, the more you remain enslaved. The more you dare to face your truth, the freer you become. When this purification occurs, the transformation is unmistakable. The body, once a battlefield of conflicting impulses, becomes a sanctuary. The mind, once restless and divided, becomes focused and clear. The heart, once wounded and closed, begins to radiate warmth that others cannot ignore. And the soul, once fragmented, begins to remember itself as whole. This is the secret behind the inexplicable charisma of great masters throughout history. They did not need crowns, armies, or wealth to influence the world. Their magnetism came from within, from the mastery of their own energy. People were drawn to them not by force, but by resonance. The light of their being was undeniable, and the world responded. And the same is possible for you. For sexual alchemy is not reserved for saints, monks, or mystics of the past. It is the birthright of every human being. It is your birthright. The fire that sleeps in you is the same fire that illuminated the temples of Egypt, that powered the chants of Tibetan monks, that inspired poets, mystics, inventors, and lovers throughout time. It is the same fire that Tesla transformed into invention, that artists transmute into beauty, that visionaries channel into courage. What you choose to do with it is your path. You can waste it in forgetfulness, scattering it into fleeting pleasures that leave you emptier each time. Or you can reclaim it, refine it, and let it become the force that reshapes your destiny. The choice is always yours. But understand this: once awakened, the fire will not let you remain asleep. It will push you, challenge you, confront you with your own truth. It will strip away illusions, burn away masks, and demand that you stand naked before yourself. And though this may terrify you at first, it is the most profound liberation you can imagine. For only when you stop running can you begin to fly. The path of sexual alchemy is not a technique. It is not a quick fix, nor a secret hack to get what you want. It is a path of becoming. It is the oldest magic in the world, not the power to manipulate reality, but the power to transform yourself so completely that reality cannot help but transform with you. And here is the final paradox. In the end, it is not even about attraction. It is not about pulling love, money, or opportunity into your orbit. It is about becoming the kind of being who naturally resonates with those things without effort, without struggle. The universe does not give you what you ask for. It reflects what you are. And when you embody light, the world becomes luminous. So ask yourself now, who do you choose to become? Will you continue to let your fire dissipate in moments of forgetfulness? Or will you dare to claim it, to channel it, to let it transfigure you into something radiant? Will you remain a seeker, always chasing shadows, or will you step into the realization that what you seek has always been within you? The answer does not lie in the temples of the past, nor in the promises of the future. It lies here now in the quiet space where you feel the pulse of your own being. The spark is waiting. The flame is ready. The choice is yours. And when you choose, the world will respond, not because you have forced it, but because you have aligned with it. You will not beg. You will not chase. You will not manipulate. You will radiate. And in that radiance, everything you desire will be drawn to you, not as a prize, but as a reflection. This is sexual alchemy. This is the forbidden fire. This is the art of becoming.